Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
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 Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Kunj Bihari Radha Shinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Shinath Ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Shinath Ji Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai.
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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva.
Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Hari Nam
Sankirtan ki
Jai
jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda.
Jai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Chanting invocation prayers. Om
Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Tam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे.
Hare Krishna. So welcome to day 2 of our Siksastakam study. So how many recited Siksastakam prayers today? Few more? Alright. So we're getting closer. But for the rest of us who did not, we'll recite them now. And as I said, my hope is that by studying the great importance of the Siksastakam prayer, we'll understand its great importance and bring it into our daily repertoire of chanting and reciting daily. These most potent prayers from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the one time we can take out our phones if we don't have it memorized yet, and we'll recite together. So we'll give everybody a second to get the Siksastakam prayers up, and then we'll recite. As we discussed last time, the Siksastakam prayers are 8 very powerful instructions. Shiksha, instructions, Ashtakam, 8, that were given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, containing the essence of all of his teachings. He came for the singular purpose to teach and experience the potency of devotional service. And while he was an erudite scholar, and he instructed so many, including Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, and the intricate details of devotional service, he did not leave much of his own writing, but he left these very 8 important verses. And with them, we actually get everything that there is to know about the process of achieving the greatest perfection of life. The prime benediction, the highest benediction one can achieve in this world, in the whole of creation, is love of Krishna. And these verses bring us from the very beginning stages of our bhakti process to the highest platform of Krishna Prema. So this is the Siksastakam prayers, and we'll walk through the progression of time. You can sit here, Mata, if you won't be able to see. And so, as I mentioned last time, the commentaries from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur are the primary components of what we'll be discussing, what we discussed yesterday, as well as what we'll be discussing today and tomorrow, in terms of how to understand these verses and the flow of the verses, and the importance for all of us in our practical application. Okay? So let us now chant and recite the Siksastakam prayers together. Cheto darpanam marjanam bhava mahanirvapanam Shreyaya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam Anandambudivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasadanam Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Namakari bahudani jasharva shaktis Tatrapitani ramita smaranena kalaha Etadasi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi Durdaiva midrisham mahajani namuradaha Trinadapi sanicena tarorapi sahishrunana Mamanina manena kirtaniya sadahari Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam vajagdisha kamaye Mama janmani janmanishware Bhavatat bhakti rahitaki tvai Ainanda tanuja kinkaram Patitam Mishame Bhavamudam Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja
Stitanuri Sasarsam Vichintaya Nayanam Garadashudaya Varanam Gadadarudragira Pulakai Ruchitam Vapukada Tavanama Garadeva Vishyati Yugaitam Nilishena Chakshusha Pravasaitam Shunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Vidadename Ashlishya Vapadanatam Vinashtumam Adarshanam Matam Korotuva Yathatava Virato Lampato Matprana Susevana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So these very 8 potent prayers, I hope we'll all work to memorize them and study them and recite them. But as important as reciting the Sanskrit, we should actually learn and recite the English so that we actually know what it is that we're chanting. And the glories of the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all dust keepers. Like that, we should recite the English after reciting the Sanskrit so that we can bring the purport of these verses into our consciousness and into our daily activities. Okay? So I'm going to skip through this. This is just a summary of the 8 verses that we discussed yesterday, and the flow with the beginning establishing the glorious, supremely victorious nature of Sankirtana and the 7 very powerful effects that it has. And we talked about the cleansing of the heart, the extinguishing of the fire of existence, the ever-increasing ocean of bliss, the prime benediction, and so many others. So this powerful effects of chanting make it the supremely victorious process to overcome the material world in all of its challenges. And we know in the second verse, Krishna has invested all of his transcendental energies in them, making it non-different from his names. But what is our greatest misfortune? No attraction from it. So in the third verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains 4 qualities of being tolerant, humble, not expecting any respect, and giving all respects to others. These are the 4 beautiful qualities that adorn one who is constantly chanting the holy names of the Lord. And then in the 4th verse, we see that in order to really progress in devotional service, one must sever the ties to their material attachments and aspire for the unconditional position of devotional service. And this is the 5th verse, which expresses that desire. No material desires, but what is my spiritual desire? To be the servant of the Supreme Lord. And then verses 6, 7, and 8 bring us from the moods of initial ecstasy. When will these when will the tears flow from my eyes like torrents of rain? One is wondering. To the experience in the 7th verse, where a moment away from Krishna is like 12 years or more. And then brings us to the 8th and penultimate verse, this perfected mood of prema bhakti, where it expresses that my love for you, Krishna, is unconditional. Not if you meet my desires, then I'll love you. No, unconditional. Even if you make me brokenhearted, or you handle me roughly by your embrace, you are my unconditional object of love. This Siksastakam prayer brings us from the very preliminary stages of trying to learn the potency of chanting to this highest position of prema bhakti. So today we'll be discussing verses 3, 4, and 5, this middle section, and this will complete our study of sadhana bhakti, but also of Sambandha Gyan, understanding our relationship with Krishna. And then tomorrow we will conclude with this verses 6, 7, and 8, as we explore the perfected stage of devotional service. Okay, so I'm just going to fast forward through the slides yesterday, which you can see. So yesterday we concluded by discussing that this Durdaivam, this misfortune, our misfortune is that we don't have attraction for chanting of the holy names. You know, we define so many misfortunes, but actually our only misfortune is no attachment to the holy names. And we learned that the 10 offenses, by reducing, when we become free of these 10 offenses chanting of the holy names, then we can acquire this attraction. Then our attraction for chanting will grow. And these 10 offenses also have a very direct connection to the third verse that we'll be discussing here momentarily. So I thought we would briefly just review the 10 offenses. This is also something that should be chanted every day in every temple around the world, our ISKCON temples. We recite Siksastakam prayers, and then the 10 offenses and chanting, and then begin our japa. And we'll see today why this is so important. So if you know them, you can just recite them. So the first is to blaspheme the devotee who's dedicated our lives to the propagation of the holy names of the Lord. 2 is to consider the names of demigods, such as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the holy names of Lord Vishnu. 3 is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4 is to blaspheme the Vedic literature, or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. 5 is to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6 is to give some interpretations on the holy names of the Lord. 7 is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. 8 is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna to be one of the auspicious rituals activities, which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. 9 is to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10 is to not have complete faith in chanting of the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. So this is the 10 offenses that are recited every day, and we should become very aware of them. Because Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells us that if we're chanting for a long time, or even short time, and still we're wondering, when is this attraction going to come? When is the taste for the holy names going to come? Then we should very carefully analyze these 10 offenses and see where is it that we might be committing some of these, and work very systematically to minimize them and ultimately to eliminate them. There are 3 stages of chanting. There is the Namaparad, where one is fully committing all of these offenses. Then the second stage is the Namabhasha stage, where one is working to reduce those offenses. And when one fully eliminates them, then we reach the platform of Suddha Nam, where one is in pure chanting. Then the actual taste, the ruchi of the holy names will manifest. So this is what we must do. Be very systematic according to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and analyze so that we can spark this attraction to this most powerful chanting of the holy names. Because we now know its potency, but still the taste is still there for others. So this is the very famous third verse. Many people, we see this quoted over and over again. So we'll just recite it again. Trinadapi sunichena tarodapi shaishvana amanina manadena kirtaniya savahari. So let's see. 1. Should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. A very powerful verse. So let us break down now. So these are the 4 qualities. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that these 4 qualities, they adorn one who chants offenselessly. So one who is free of the 10 offenses acquires these 4 qualities. And we'll discuss each of these in detail. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that this verse, this third verse, was specifically spoken solely for the purpose to show us how to avoid Nama aparad in chanting. So we'll come back to this at the end, but let us see these qualities. What one has when they're able to chant the names constantly. No need to be an elevated brahmana, some intellectual capability, or have complete mastery of shastra. It is these four qualities that enables one, and they are achieved how? By chanting free of the offenses to the holy name, free of nama. So first, Trunadapi Sunichena. Trunad means grass. Api, more than, and Sunichena, very low or humble. So one should think themselves lower than a straw in the street. This humility is extremely, extremely important. It is the principal ingredient, along with enthusiasm, to make success in spiritual life. If we see the great, great devotees of the Lord, they all possess, in almost shocking quantity, this humility. They're strikingly humble. And what's amazing about their humility is they have all the potential or reason to be proud. So many things have accomplished. Yet in spite of that, they are extremely humble. And thus, one can progress. So this humility is so important. And who is the most humble of all? The Supreme Lord Himself. He is the source of all qualities, including humility. So humble that He even took the position of charioteer to drive His dear friend. When Krishna interacts with His devotees, He exhibits this ultimate humility. He gives Himself completely to His devotees. Even though He is the Supreme Lord, the Ishvara, the controller of all, He remains this most humble position. So how humble is the blade of grass? So we've seen already so many things, metaphors, right? The mirror of the heart, the expanding ocean, the benediction of the moon. So now we're seeing the blazing fire, Mahadavagni. So now we're seeing this metaphor of a blade of grass. So we see that a blade of grass is very humble. It stands up straight, right? And when somebody steps on a blade of grass, it falls down. And then what does it do? It stands back up, ready to cushion the foot of another person walking. And all day long, it is constantly providing its service. And a devotee is even more humble, api, more humble than a blade of grass. Lower than a straw in the street. We know Lord Nityananda would take a piece of straw in the street between his teeth and beg to chant the holy names of the Lord as an expression of his humility. So this is humility. So what is humility? That is a question we sometimes ask. What does humility mean? We could actually have the whole seminar just on this piece, but we'll just cover it in brief and continue. But humility has many different ways or angles to understand it. We'll present a few today. But ultimately, humility is having an accurate understanding of who we are. That's it. That's humility. Ego means I am. False ego means a false sense of who I am. But pure ego means knowing who I am. So ego is not bad. False ego is what's bad. A false sense of who I am. So humility means having pure ego, knowing who am I? I am a tiny, infinitesimal spark of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, part and parcel of Him. And I am fully dependent on His mercy. I have no existence other than connected to Him. That is humility. And Srila Prabhupada says that when we are convinced beyond any doubt that nothing in this world, absolutely nothing, not our wealth, not our family, not our country, not our guns, nothing can protect us but the mercy of the Supreme Lord. When we are convinced of that, then we are humble. That was according to Srila Prabhupada's statement. When we are convinced of that. We cannot take even a single breath without the mercy of the Lord. We cannot digest a single grain of food without the mercy of the Lord. Yet we think, I am the independent control. I am the doer. So when we are convinced of this, then we understand that we have achieved some humility. And why we don't see this, why we don't recognize the mercy of Krishna in every breath we take, is because of our false ego. Our sense of I am independent from the Lord. But in actuality, we are fully dependent on His mercy. So that to the extent we are convinced of this, not in words, but in action and in the heart, we have begun to acquire some humility. And the devotee is always in a humble mood, thinking oneself as the servant of all others, and never proud, always in this mood. So one thing, we sometimes want to know is, how can I measure my humility? It's like somewhat abstract. So there are some different ways. I mentioned this in the previous, I heard from His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. He made this comment that humility is the eagerness to be corrected. When we are corrected, what is that emotion that ignites in the heart? Forget about what we say, but what is the emotion that ignites in the heart? Is it appreciation? Wow, someone is saving me from making a mistake. Or is it, who the heck are you to tell me what to do? Usually that. So that emotion that is present in the heart, that is an indication of where is our humility. The humble servant is very eager to be corrected, because what is our only goal? To make success in the process of devotional service. As we talked yesterday, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not consider who was correcting. It's easy to be corrected by some authority, or at least easier. But even a 5-year-old child corrected Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, in Leela and pastime. But this is the mood of humility. So what is that emotion that ignites in the heart we can use to gauge where are we in our humility? This another one is our eagerness to follow. If you see in all the descriptions of devotional service, particularly in the writings from Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, you see repeatedly following in the footsteps of the acharyas. What is our eagerness to do so? Or are we begrudgingly going along because we have no other choice? Do we wish, independence? But are eager, because the devotee knows that is the safest path to protect my bhakti. But it takes some humility to recognize I don't know everything myself. So this is another kind of measure. A third is one who is humble, is very naturally gracious. There's this a gratitude that exists in the heart. Because one doesn't think, oh, I deserve X, Y, and Z. But they're actually naturally gracious and gratitude, full of gratitude. It is another sign of humility. So there are many others, but there's just some, again, in the spirit of getting through the 3 verses, we'll move on. But this topic of humility is very, very important. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur tells us that one's humility cannot be doubted or challenged. How? As long as one is strictly adhering to the instructions of their guru. He says one may be giving big classes, writing books, traveling the world, preaching, but if they're strictly adhering to the principles and instructions of the guru, then they are considered to be humble. And here we must emphasize the importance of adherence to all the orders of guru. Sometimes in doing our devotional service, we follow one, but then we lack in others. And in that one, we create disturbances even to others. Think, I'm just following the instructions. No. One must follow all the instructions of the guru. And as long as one is very, very humble. We'll talk a little bit about an example of this in a moment. But 2, Tarorapi Shahishnava. Again, tolerant. Then, a tree. How tolerant is a tree? You can yell at it and it'll still give you a mango. Even if you kick the tree, it might drop a mango to you. Even if you chop it down, cut off its limbs, it will give you heat if you burn it. This is the tolerance of a tree. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this chapter gives some, nice examples of the tolerance of the tree, and it's amazing. I don't know if I have all the verses here, but he gives very similar statements that the tree is like the symbol of tolerance. It stands in the scorching heat, rain all day long, and it still gives shelter, he says. Even if it is growing thirsty and has no water, it doesn't complain and ask for water even. This is the tolerance of a tree. So it is like the symbol, another great metaphor. So devotees are very, very tolerant. And how are they more tolerant than a tree? It seems impossible, right, to be more tolerant than a tree. But the pure devotees of the Lord, they are so tolerant because of their consciousness. They are fully surrendered to Krishna. They know that Krishna's promises that I am your ever well-wisher. I carry what you lack. I preserve what you have. I am your eternal loving Father. All these statements Krishna makes, they have full faith in them. So when they face adversity, difficulties, they see this as Krishna's grand plan that is good for them, beneficial for them. When difficulties arise, they say, oh, this is an opportunity for me to increase my purification, burn away some of my anarthas, increase my love and absorption of Krishna. We see this mood in the prayers of Queen Kunti, who's praying for calamity over and over again. Why? Because it intensifies her love for Krishna. And it brings her closer to him. So the devotee is very tolerant because of this firm faith in Krishna's plan and in Krishna's uncompromising love for all of us. So they tolerate any kind of difficulties. And devotees also have great compassion for the fallen souls who are affected by Maya, who are full of anarthas. They're stuck in the quagmire of material existence and have acquired so many anarthas. And the devotee becomes very tolerant. So when the devotee is on the receiving end of such persons, poor behavior, what is their response? They don't fight back. They become compassionate and think, oh, this person is acting rotten to me just because of their anarthas. They are also spirit soul, eternally servant of Krishna. And so, instead of retaliating back, what does the devotee do? Shower mercy, thinking how I can help them purify from their anarthas, help their conditioning resolve so that they can come to a pure consciousness and stop this ill behavior. This is the mood of the devotee. Doesn't take even ill behavior to them personally, but sees it is just a function of their conditioning. And so they don't pray for the Lord, Lord, please destroy. They pray to the Lord intensely, please deliver this dear child, even though they are striking so much animosity to them. This is the consciousness of a pure devotee. So sweet. And a devotee, because they have no bodily consciousness, when one ridicules or gives some trouble, it doesn't even register into the consciousness. Today somebody says one thing about us, we meditate more on that than on the holy names. We can't get that out of our head. But a devotee, they have no bodily consciousness. Just to try to imagine this. We know, if you have a 3-month-old baby sitting in a carrier, and someone behind is bad-mouthing the baby, what does the baby do? Completely does it. They're absorbed in their own thoughts. They have no consciousness of this. It's just a mundane way to try to understand. When a devotee faces it, doesn't even read this on the bodily platform. They are fully absorbed on the spiritual platform. It doesn't even register. So this is the tolerance that a great devotee has. And in the end, the devotee is so tolerant, he's merciful to all. Just like the tree will give the mango to his friend and to the foe. But a devotee has no foe. Because he sees everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. Just the only difference between all is maybe some misuse of their independence. So this is the consciousness that invokes this great tolerance. Amanina. No desire for respect. We get so much emotion out of the desire to obtain respect. We want to be respected. And what happens when we don't? Anger. Actually, most of our anger is due to an unmet expectation of respect. An unmet expectation. But a devotee, why they're always happy? They have no expectation. They truly have no. Because it is humility. Srila Prabhupada defines humility in another way. That one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. This he writes in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita to the 8th through 12th verses of chapter 13. One should not have the satisfaction of being honored by others. This is humility. So we must lose this desire to respect. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he, again, who in spite of having every reason to be proud and to be respected, but demonstrates this humility and tolerance and pure heart, is a candidate to chant Shuddhana, to chant purely, without offenses. So this is a very, very critical and important aspect. And finally, Manadena. Respect for everyone. Everyone. All living entities. Not just our friends, our family, those who agree with us philosophically, but respect for all. This is the great devotional quality. The test of our respect is how do we treat those who are different from us, who have a different idea. That is a good test. So devotees see everyone as part and parcel of Krishna. They are seeing soul. The only differences are the body. But the vision of the devotee, they see the soul. And thus, they respect all, seeing them as dear children of their worshipful Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. And thus, this quality of Manadena. Even in our service, in devotional service, sometimes we find this inability to show respect to others' devotional service. There's one great story I heard in Vrindavan recently. There was Srila Prabhupada was receiving massage, and the devotee was plugging in a warmer to warm the oil for the massage, so that he could apply warm oil to Srila Prabhupada. But that other side of the outlet was in the kitchen, and the devotee when the kitchen was cooking, he plugged in, and it was electrifying the water, and he kept shocking himself. So he went into the room and said, don't plug in this oil because it's electrifying, and I'm trying to cook for Srila Prabhupada. So the devotee went out, and the devotee plugged it back in to warm the oil. And he's like, and then the devotee came back saying, you keep electric. He's like, but I need to warm oil. He says, but I'm trying to cook for Srila Prabhupada. And 3-4 times this thing came, and the final time the devotee came from the kitchen, and they started fighting, like hitting each other. And Prabhupada finally stopped them. And he made a very powerful statement. He says, one should do their service in a way that does not give disturbance to anyone. That is how one should approach devotional service. If you want to please Krishna with your service, you should do it in such a way that does not give disturbance to anyone, but in fact do your service to help others around you. So this is the mood that we can try to inculcate even in our devotional service. So what is the result of these 4 qualities? Kirtanaya Sadahari. Constantly chanting the holy names of the Lord. Our goal is to chant 24 hours a day. Our 16 rounds is the minimum, the beginning. And how will it come to the point where we'll be chanting 24 hours a day? When will it happen? When we have the taste, the attraction, the natural inclination. Right? Like a businessman. Does he have to work to think about his business? 24 hours a day consumed in thinking how to make more business, more money. Don't have to work at it. It just happens naturally. Why? Because there is attraction. So the devotee, they find no other activity that is pleasing than chanting of the holy names. Rupa Goswami says that when one has the attraction for the holy name, the taste, they can see Krishna dancing on their tongue. It's so sweet and so sublime that one tongue to chant is not sufficient. And they pray to have many, many tongues, millions of tongues. And 2 ears are not sufficient to satisfy the thirst for hearing the holy names. This is how robust the taste is. Even when we ate some, food stuff, sometimes we wish I had more stomach space so I could eat more, right? We wish like that. When we experience the taste of the holy names, 1, 2, 10, 100 tongues is not sufficient. So this 24 hours a day is actually quite simple. But it happens only when there is some attraction, some taste. Right now, we are in the process of trying to purify so that there is some attraction. This sadhana bhakti is the process of cleansing the heart. We chant under the guidance of Guru and Shastra, knowing it is important to us, so that we can come to this stage. But it'll happen. And so how many of us would like these qualities? Just one? Everyone? Okay. Everybody wants the qualities? So Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, one who chants the holy names offenselessly is adorned with these 4 qualities. Those 10 offenses of the holy names we just recited, one who can become free of them in their chanting will be adorned, he says, with these 4 qualities. You don't have to work to try to acquire them. They are blessed with these 4 lovely qualities. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur further says, the chanting of the holy names adorned with these 4 blessed qualities, it is the highest success of human life. The highest success of human life is to be able to chant the holy names of the Lord without offenses and be adorned with these 4 qualities. Because when one does, what is coming next? Krishna prema. This is the beautiful state. So yesterday when we talked about our misfortune and the need to awaken our attraction, it starts with those 10 offenses. And this is the result. So been chanting a long time and no taste. Now we know where to look. So a great example of Tunadapi Sunichena Toropi Shihishna Manina Manadena Kirtanya Sadari is our Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur. What kind of tolerance he had? He was beaten in 22 marketplaces. For what grave offense? Chanting the holy names. And why he was being beaten? Out of envy. Because he was gaining fame and adoration. Not that he was creating some disturbance. But still, how tolerant he was? As he was being beaten in each of the marketplaces, he was praying and begging. What? Stop this beating. Krishna, come and protect me. He was praying. Forgive these people who are beating me. What kind of conscience? How? And what he thought? They are just doing their job, working for an ill-minded king. Krishna had sent his Sudarshana Chakra to behead those who were beating his dear devotee. But this Chakra stopped. Because whose word even can supersede Krishna's word? The word of his devotee. Because Chakra knows more dear to Krishna than himself is his devotee. And so Haridas Thakur is praying, please forgive these people. This type of tolerance. Yeah. He was attempted to be defamed, and they sent a prostitute to try to ruin his character. And what did he do? Turned her into pure devotee of the Lord. He saw spirit soul and just chanted the holy names. Great tolerance. He did not defend himself, fight, just tolerated and used his great intelligence. His humility knew no bounds. He was Namacharya. He was the great Acharya. When Haridas Thakur came to Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, went to touch him. And Haridas said, don't touch me, I am contaminated. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and embraced him and said, by touching you, all of my impurities are removed. This is the status of Haridas Thakur. But he was so humble. He would not, understanding himself to be born in a low family, he would not associate with all the other associate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu one time in a garden was serving wonderful opulent prasadam to all the associates. If we see a group of devotees sitting over there enjoying all opulent prasadam, what is in our mood? We want to join, right? We want to go and participate. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was calling, Haridas, Haridas, come! And Haridas Thakur says, I'm not going. And he refused to come. But in that mood of refusing to come, and he's watching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally serving with his own hands prasad to all the devotees. What was his mood? Resentment, despair, sadness. Oh, I wish I could be there. He was in ecstasy. Extreme happiness. Why? Seeing the devotees on the receiving end of such love and mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There wasn't an ounce of envy in his heart. He had such humility, thinking, I am not qualified for this mercy. But look at these wonderful devotees who are so fortunate to be relishing this. And he was in ecstasy, seeing others gain. This is the result of chanting the holy names nicely. These beautiful qualities. Advaita Acharya, when he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he invited all the great brahmanas. And at that time, Haridas Thakur was living nearby. And after the ceremony, the tradition is you offer the first prasad to the greatest of all brahmanas. And who he offered the prasad to? Haridas Thakur. And what did Haridas Thakur say? Thank you very much, I'm hungry. Mahaprasade Govinde. He said, your whole ceremony will be ruined if I eat this. I am an unqualified person. Though he was the most qualified. And Advaita Acharya rightly corrected him. But this is the constant mood. And what was the reciprocation of his humility? When he left this mortal world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally carried his body to the ocean, bathed him, and put him in samadhi. This is the Namacharya, the Acharya, the teacher of the chanting of the holy name. So much we can learn. Srila Prabhupada also exhibits this extraordinary mood of humility, tolerance. What he had to tolerate to spread this message that we are all relishing today. The difficulties he faced were unending and unimaginable. Whatever we face, it pales in comparison. He has such tolerance, so many setbacks, humility. In one famous lecture on the disappearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, all the success was happening, and he said to his disciples, his disciples, I have to thank you because you are helping me serve my spiritual master. This was his humility. He did not take credit. He created those disciples. He established their ability to practice Krishna. But he's saying, I have to thank you. And he became emotional and started crying. And he actually ended the lecture. It was so heartfelt. It wasn't just, superficial, but it was intensely heartfelt. And whenever anybody would credit Srila Prabhupada for all of his great success, he would simply say, it is all the mercy of my Gurudev. It's the only thing. So we see this in great devotees. Okay? We'll discuss first 4. Nadanam najanam na sundarim kavitam va jagadish kamay mama jamini janmadishware bhavatad bhakti ahitiki tvai. Oh Almighty Lord, I have no desire to commit wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. So let us discuss now. So we saw in the last verse that chanting occurs without offenses. One gets these beautiful qualities. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells us that if a sadhaka, a practitioner of devotional service, if their attachment to material pleasures is not severed, then this sambandha, this original identity, does not manifest in the heart. And one cannot progress to the elevated stages of bhakti. One must sever these attachments. So Rupa Goswami instructs us in the process of pure devotional service. He says the principal aspect of pure devotional service is loving Krishna, very favorably. Anukulena Krishna Nushilanam, following in the footsteps. But what makes it pure devotional service? It must be free of all motive. Free of all material desires. No desire for anything. Wealth, followers, beautiful women, nothing. Then the highest stages of bhakti can be achieved. Without it, until we're free from this, it will not happen. It is like trying to, fly up in a hot air balloon and you're tied to a tree. No matter how much hot air you put in the balloon, you're not going to go anywhere. You cannot elevate to the higher realms of bhakti unless we cut and sever these material attachments. So this verse is meant to help inspire us to sever these ties that hold us back. And these impediments, right? What are they born out of? Lust. And not even the desire for liberation. He says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, birth after birth. We're asking, no more birth. Give us liberation. But even that desire pales in comparison. So if we have no desires, then what to do? What is our desire? The soul is active. It has to have a desire. That is the nature. So what is the desire of the intelligent? All I want is unconditional devotional service. This is intelligence. Intelligence is to know what to desire. In our childhood, we desired so many things. And as we grow up, what do we now think of those desires? Foolish, immature, right? Intelligence is to know what is best to desire. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this verse is telling us, this is what we should desire. Unconditional devotional service. Right? And service that is unconditional. Not, I'll serve you, Krishna, if. Drop the if. And the but. But certainly the if. No more ifs. That is unconditional service. Like a mother's service to her child. It is not conditioned on anything. So this is the mood of the pure devotee. And these material attachments, they are very deeply rooted. So we must be very aggressive to attack them. Severing this tie, anybody finds it super easy? Simple? Millions of births, we've been spending our time chasing after all of our lustful desires. So many desires. If we just look at our existence on this planet, how many desires we've had from when we were a young child to maybe a youth to an adult. So many desires, how many unlimited things we wanted. And each time we get them, what is the result? Fruitless dissatisfaction, unhappiness. And so all of these desires are born out of lust. And what is lust? It is simply our pure love for Krishna, tainted with the material energy. As intense as our material desires, it pales actually in comparison to our pure love for Krishna. So Arjuna asks Krishna, what is this seemingly invisible force that leads one to sin? And what does Krishna say? It is lust only, Arjuna. In the second chapter, Krishna explains that this lust leads to our fall down. Because when we have material attachments, those attachments start small. I'd like this. Then it grows to, I really want this. Then, I need this. To, I have to have it. And that's how they all manifest. And that lust, it always ends in anger. Why? Because if the lust is satisfied, we want more. And if it's not satisfied, we're frustrated. Either way, we lose. And so Krishna says this lust leads to anger, which leads to this greed, delusion, bewilderment, losing our intelligence, and ultimately, we fall down. So he says in the 16th chapter, the three gateways to hell: lust, anger, and greed. So this is very important for us. And so how to conquer our lust? Chanting. Good chanting. What's the definition of good chanting? Free of the 10 offenses. Now we have a clear thing, including attentive chanting. Right? So this is the opportunity. Final verse today. Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patitam ma mishame babam buddha kripaya tava para pankaja stita duli sajashram vachintaya. O son of Maharaja Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servant. Yet somehow or other I've fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. So this is a very important verse. Seems very simple, no? Very straightforward. There's some very deep meaning into this verse that our acharyas are commenting on. A very important mood. The first, our victory is fully dependent on the Lord's mercy. Our desire alone is not sufficient. We are fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna, the inconceivable compassion and love of our Supreme Father. If the Lord's mercy comes, then we can return to our original consciousness. At the same time, we must also desire. We must do our part. We heard the desire in the last verse. Right? Make me a servant unconditionally, birth after birth. But even the strength of that desire, where does it come from? Krishna. So we have to pray to Krishna for the strength to desire, the strong desire. This is how dependent we are. What we have to do. And when we desire, Krishna's mercy certainly comes. In Bhava Bhakti, there is one of the 9 characters called Ashabandha. It means that there's a strong conviction that one will certainly receive the favor of Krishna. This is because I'm doing my best, trying very hard, executing the principles of devotional service, I am sure that Krishna's mercy will come and take me back home to God. But it's actually born out of great humility. Sometimes expectation is born out of pride. I deserve this. But it actually is out of great humility. It's thinking that one is confident in Krishna. They're saying, I'm so fallen, but I am part and parcel of Krishna. And because I'm desiring, Krishna's mercy is so limitless, so expansive, that he will surely save me. And so this is the mood that we see. And we see in this verse also the important recognition that this platform of prema, bhakti, it comes by the mercy. How? What do we see? What words lead us to say, only by Krishna's mercy this can happen? please pick me up. No other way. How are we going to elevate? Chaitanya, please pick me up from this ocean of death. This is indicative that it is not by our mercy. But we still have to do our part. What is our part? Desire. Strong desire. Just like the farmer. The farmer can plant the field, cultivate the soils. But if there is no rain or sun, will the crop grow? So if the farmer just sits back and says, okay, let the rain and sun come. But if the rain and sun comes, but they haven't done their part to plant the crop and cultivate the soil, will the crop come? No. Both are needed. Our determination, our strong desire, but ultimately, Krishna's mercy. And we learn this lesson in what great pastime? Damodar Leela. Mother Yashoda's rope was always 2 inches short. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur tells us, because we need to bind Krishna with our love, our determination, and Krishna's mercy. So in this verse we see the great acknowledgement. Please pick me up from this ocean of death. So this is very important. And furthermore, we see the eagerness, the desperation in prayer. Why? Because I'm in an ocean of birth and death. I am being tossed by the waves of anxiety and fear and stress and turmoil, left, right, up and down. If we were dropped into the middle of an ocean, how eager would we be begging to be lifted out? Krishna, if you're around, would you help me? How eager we would be. That eagerness we should approach our chanting with. That is the mood in which we should be chanting. Krishna, please pick me up from this ocean of birth and death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. This is the mood in which we can approach our japa. And I wanted to read a couple of verses that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is commenting on, where he says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing this great mood of humility in these verses. As Lord Chaitanya spoke in this way, his humility increased, and he began praying to Krishna that he could discharge pure devotional service. And he says, my Lord, I do not want any wealth from you, nor do I want any followers, a beautiful wife, or the results or fruit of activities. I only pray your causeless mercy to give me a devotional service life after learning. In great humility, considering himself a conditioned soul in the material world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed again his desire to be endowed with the service to the Lord. So you see this, recognition that we are fully dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And finally, this verse brings us to our Sambandha Gyan, our relationship. What is our relationship? Of son of Maharaja Nanda, Krishna. What am I? Eternal servitor. So I am your eternal servitor. And this is the conclusion of our Sambandha Gyan. I am eternal servitor of Supreme Lord. And from here, the next 3 verses will begin to discuss the prayojana, the result of acting in this relationship. What manifests, the ecstatic symptoms, and the great experience in chanting of the holy names. So we're seeing through these first 5 verses the effect of the holy names. We learn the potency of the holy names, but we learn of our great misfortune for not having a taste for them. But then we learn the great qualities that manifest when we begin to chant without offenses. And we become free. We sever the tie of all of our material desires. And we awaken our eternal relationship of servant to Krishna. Begging with great sincerity for the mercy of Krishna. And having confidence and faith that it will surely come. And so this is the progression that our consciousness builds as we take to the process of chanting, and as we chant, we purify, cleanse the mirror of the heart, and everything manifests. So tomorrow we will continue with our discussion then of the final 3 verses of Siksastakam prayers. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Kopi Vaishnava Vrinda. Any questions or comments today?
I had like 2 questions.
Mhm.
So first, so how do you know if your humility is genuine or if you're just saying like that you're not qualified just to act humble? Like how do you make your humility genuine?
Well, how do we make the humility genuine is by good chanting. That is the means to make our humility genuine. How do we know if our humility is genuine?
Mm-hmm.
It's the emotion in the heart, not the words on the tongue. So we may speak something, oh, Prabhu Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. But what's in our heart? That only we know. So that is what we want to evaluate. That's why I said, when we are corrected, what emotion ignites? I use the word ignite because it usually ignites in our heart. Is it appreciation and gratitude? Or is it condemnation or something worse? Right? So by being aware of the emotions in the heart, when these different things manifest, we can understand our real mood. But as we know, fake it till we make it. So we should continue to express our humility, but we should be very objective with our own assessment of that. Your second question?
So like devotees are supposed to have like all these qualities, right? But then in like when you're like out with other people, like non-devotees, and like I don't know, is it like okay to show your weaknesses to other people? Because then I feel like you're not being a good devotee because you're not exhibiting all the qualities that devotees should have. I mean, like, not when you don't have them yet, but like I don't know. I guess should you like show or like confide in non-devotees or like show your weaknesses to non-devotees?
Well, Rupa Goswami says that in the 4th verse of Nectar of Instruction that there are 6 aspects of association, and that we should reveal our mind and heart to close senior devotees. We should not reveal our mind and heart to willy-nilly, throw it out on Facebook. That is not the means to reveal our heart and mind. We should be careful because people can take that information and use it for ill intent. So there's a self sort of protection required in it. But when we talk about showing our weaknesses, just remember humility is not weakness. It is actually extraordinary strength. It takes a very strong person to remain humble in the midst of provocation, in the midst of great praise or honor. It takes great strength. And Arjuna was the most humble warrior, but he was the most powerful. So humility does not mean to be weak and feeble, to be low self-esteem, to think, oh, I'm just as useless. No, that's why it's to have an accurate understanding that I am part and parcel of Krishna. Whatever amazing, incredible, extraordinary things I do, it is only because of Krishna. So it's not to neglect or negate the extraordinary, whatever things we can do that are great, we should honor those and use them, but recognize where it comes from. It is not from my doing. It is from the mercy of Krishna. That is yukta vairagya. That is real renunciation. To renounce the possession, the possessiveness of that, but to use it in the service of Krishna. One who has great ability, but says, oh, I'm really humble, I'm not going to use it. That is false renunciation. So one should use whatever strengths, abilities, capabilities they have to their fullest, but never for a moment forget where that ability is coming from. Because not even a single breath we take without the mercy of Krishna.
Okay, but also, to like go off that, so I feel like as a devotee, you're always kind of supposed to know what you're doing. I don't know, like, and so should we ever show other people when we have doubts?
I don't understand the question.
Like, I don't know, like if we're,
The devotee is not all knowing.
yeah, but like they always have like the right direction because you have like so many things to guide you.
Yeah, so if you have something that's great to share, you should share it. But if someone's not ready to hear it, don't impose it. Don't be a nuisance on somebody. But if they're and the skillful devotee knows how to share in a way that's inspiring to each different person, and not putting them off. So you have to be tactful in how we share the information we have. And ultimately we have to gauge, is somebody ready to hear? If they're not ready to hear, there's no worth to speak.
Okay.
There's no value to speak. If the heart is closed, doesn't matter if the ears are open. Yes.
If one is subject to, say, unpleasant things from the other person,
I'm sorry?
if someone is subject to some kind of, not a direct criticism, but like some kind of unpleasant, I don't know how to say,
Mm-hmm.
but not like a criticism, but there's something to it, then one can feel hurt about it. So now how do one prevent, I know you would say that one will feel hurt because one is having that ego, right? So now how to prevent, because it's a very natural feeling, it's very hard to get this thing talking
Yeah.
about. So how to prevent yourself, you know that you should not feel hurt, but how do you then actually prevent yourself from getting hurt?
Yeah, so when we're on the receiving end of, whatever it is, criticism or commentary or false rumors or whatever it is, verbal abuse, anything, it's very painful, it's difficult. But we have to maintain perspective in that situation. And what's the perspective? O son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servitor. When we go back to this statement, that situation starts to lose its value in relation to this statement. So, if someone speaks ill of me, what is that impact on my relationship and service to Krishna? That is my greatest possession. My greatest possession is not my reputation, is not my standing. That's not my greatest possession. My greatest possession, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what's the greatest accomplishment? To be able to chant the holy names of the Lord without offenses and to be adorned with the four qualities of Tunadapi Sunichena, Torodapi Shrishna, Manina, and Manadena. That's my greatest possession. So we just remind ourselves, this situation, how does it affect what is really valuable to me? Okay, so we have to, then we can dissipate the pains of that situation, of that existence. But again, that pain we feel, it's a desire. It's a desire for respect. It's a desire for status, for reputation, whatever it is. Again, it's sometimes very subtle, but it's observed through the pain, right? So we should be very, again, tolerant, like the tree. And again, how we are going to develop all these? Good, offenseless chanting. That's how it's going to develop, right? We're not going to talk ourselves into these qualities. We're going to reawaken them. Because again, all these qualities are inherent to all of us. They're intrinsic nature of the pure soul. But they're covered by the dust. And so we just have to remove it. So that's how. Take these things in the context of the big picture. What we tend to do is we magnify this specific situation to be like the most important thing in my life. because it is the important thing at that moment. It is. But in the grand context of my journey, millions of lifetimes through this universe, what is the significance of that? Nothing. Oh, okay. I can exhale. You know? So we have to just keep it in the context of my sambandha gyan, of my abhideya. What am I doing? And ultimately my goal, prayojana. Then we can dissipate the pain quickly.
Kind of be thankful and the fact that we are actually are able to serve, and like it's actually a privilege whatever we are doing. Just not everybody gets that.
Very well said. It's a privilege. That's what we beg to Tulsi Maharani every day. Please give me the privilege of devotional service. Yeah, very well said. I mean, that's when we recognize that and acknowledge it, then that happens. So, this is the mood that we, and this is where good association is, helps enthuse us in that process. When Haridas Thakur's reputation was harmed, or threatened to be harmed, what did he do? He just kept chanting. He didn't let it affect his consciousness. Right? Srila Prabhupada was criticized severely by so many people. I'm the servant of my spiritual master. Bhaktisiddhanta said, if you're adhering to the orders of your guru, there's no room for lack of humility. So we have faith, confidence there. Any other questions or comments? Yes?
There's one online.
Okay.
When pride arises in a community and there is not any more sangha, what is the way to bring it back?
Param Vijayate Sankirtanam. Spreading the holy names. It is the one in all solution. How do we dissipate pride in society? Go out and chant the holy names, distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, invite them to the temple for some service, feed them prasadam. This is the only means to dissipate the pride. Because the ultimate pride is my separation from Krishna, my false ego. So this is the way. So again, thank you, Mev. So tomorrow we'll discuss verses 6, 7, and 8. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Siksastakam ki jai.